Hello everybody, this is Purge, bringing you guys a replay coaching. This is submitted by Christian on my forums. Again, you can go to purgegamers.true.io if you guys want to submit there, and occasionally, very occasionally, I will hop in here and do a replay commentary. Playing a safe lane Naga this game, we're just going to super speed this up. Just a couple of the comments have ended Naga lately, talking about some of their early game build stuff, always getting arcane boots, which is pretty standard. They tried going for Aquila 2 for mana, but there's some games that they skip Aquila. So they usually skip it. Alright, so we'll talk about that kind of stuff. They talked about their late game play as well. But yeah, we'll hopefully teach you guys how to properly be the most obnoxious Naga players known to man. They did have a lot of cores on their team, not very many supports, so this should generally mean that you're able to do more in your safe lane. Starting Poor Man's Shield I think is a huge mistake. The reason this is bad is because if you're in safe lane, you shouldn't be pressured that much level 1, which means that you're probably going to want to rely on having items that will eventually accelerate you more. When you go to lane with Poor Man's Shield, that's an item that you can make from the side shop. The only time that's good to get it right away is if you know you're going to be pressured a lot instantly and you don't necessarily have time to get to the side shop. So by fully investing in Poor Man's Shield here, you basically put yourself in a position where you only had one tango and you had the ability to get outplayed and run out of regen. So what I maybe would have done instead is something like Stout Shield, close this for a sec, Stout Shield, Salve Tango with an Ironwood branch maybe, that would be 375, that's 500, 610, which should leave you with 15 gold. That way you have 2 sets of regen, you have a Stout Shield, and you have a Ring of Protection, which you can turn into a Ring of Basilius. I know that you said you don't always get Aquila, but I kind of think that's a mistake. Almost always you should be getting Aquila, just because it increases your armor by a lot and gives you like 15 damage. It's more than that, I think it's like 19 damage or something. This is another really big mistake. There's no reason for you to be standing here. You could be walking over here to check to see if there are heroes there. Maybe you get a rune, maybe you don't. Or what you could have done is stand over here and try to make sure that the offlane hero doesn't sneak in this way and get a block down. Alright, so you grabbed Riptide level 1, totally standard stuff here. And for some reason you're against the dumbest duel lane I've ever seen, a Kunkka Bristleback duel lane. Now, first things first, this shouldn't happen. You should never be against a Kunkka Bristleback duel lane. This should not be the case. The reason that this is bad is because when people start picking better heroes, they'll just tri-lane against this and they'll crap on this duel lane. They'll repeatedly kill them. But because you guys don't have a tri-lane and because your support is really late, the lane is a little bit harder than it should be. Lion is coming over. He's got kind of bad items, doesn't have clarity, and he also has a gauntlet, which is a waste. But he should basically be over here and he should be ready to start harassing these guys instantly and giving you some more space. Considering the fact that there's 2 heroes in your lane, it's actually okay that you have a Poor Man's Shield, but this is really not something that you should expect. I mean, even though you do have the Poor Man's Shield though, the other issue is that you're going to run out of regen because you only have 1 set of regen. So it's kind of good that you're trading hits with this guy. I like that you're doing it just because he's level 1 still, which means that this is the time to pressure him, but you also need to be a little bit concerned. Alright, are you going to get this kill? Oh, I think you're going to get this kill. Alright, nicely done. That was great. Absolutely worth it then. If you can get kills like that, then that is worth it. I'm going to close all of these windows because I am sure that it's slowing my game down. Maybe not. I feel like the FPS is a little bit low. Oh, I know what it is. iTunes. Alright, there we go. That gave me like 15 FPS. We are good now. Alright. So you got the kill. That was pretty good. Gives you some space. It's pretty good that you pressured the Bristleback for the fact that he becomes a lot dangerous once he hits level 2 and on. You mentioned that Kunkka was very often killing your mirror image, but the problem is that you're kind of spreading them together. Also, don't use mana like that. Yes, you harass the Kunkka here, but you also use the last bit of all the mana that you had. And I think that you can rely more on last hits. Like, you got both of these guys with Riptide. That's cool, but you did 100 damage. It lowered their armor by 2. This also pushes the wave. If you just try to last hit instead, and you've got a Quelling Blade, so you should be able to do this, you should be able to last hit these guys. Every time that you can use a spell to guarantee a last hit, rather than just being better than them and last hitting, means that you're running out of mana that you could use later. Like, there's no way you're going to be able to chase these guys and get a kill now, so using Riptide like that, I don't think is very worth it. You have to use your mana efficiently in lanes that are a little bit iffy, and you have to get every last hit. You've only got 4 so far, and that's not enough. I get it that you're in a duel lane, you did get a solo kill as well, but it's very, very important that you're around. You're also walking way too far away from this range creep here. The fact that they haven't denied this yet is ridiculous. You did eventually get the experience, but you weren't close enough to that. That was a little bit dangerous. Every piece of experience is important. Make sure that you play around that stuff. Be a little better about last hitting as well. You got to get those last hits. This is a pretty great example of having Ring of Basilius because you're in a dual lane as well, and it gives you armor against Bristleback. You mentioned in your post that you got a wand, which is good, but it looks like you bought a full wand, which I completely disagree with. Full wand is not worth it. It's the start of the game. You don't buy a full wand if you want to sustain versus a Bristleback. You get a magic stick, and then you buy some other stuff like a Ring of Basilius. Because the money you spent on this was, what, 265 gold? It's kind of efficient, but what if that was a Ring of Protection into a Basilius or other things? Like, I feel like you're not spending your gold the right way here. This is also extremely dangerous. You can't take this many hits. If this guy didn't land his stun, you were probably dead, because I bet he would have been able to get another quill. Maybe he would have lived, who knows. But the other thing is you could have just waited until you got your magic wand before you did that, because you would have gotten an extra like 5 sticks or something like that. So you have to be better at choosing when to utilize your mana. And again, because you spent all of your money on these crappy items that don't give you regen, now you're in this position where you can't even last hit. So a better solution against this problem, which is them doing an abnormal lane that's hard to kill and tanky, is you need to spend your early gold on regen. But think how you spent your early gold. You've got 1 tango, which is already few. Then you spent all of the rest of your money on a poor man's shield. And then you spent all of your money on a quelling blade. And then you spent all of your money on a magic wand. That's like a lot of money. Let's say Stout Shield's 200, right? You spent an extra 300 on Poor Man's Shield. So you spent 300 finishing Poor Man's. You spent 225 getting a Quelling Blade. And then you spent 460 on a Magic Wand. So that means you spent a total of 900 gold. You spent 900 gold getting these items, where instead you could have had a Stout Shield and maybe an extra salve, so we'll say 800 gold difference, minimum. 800 gold you spent on these items. That could have been a bottle. That could have been a boots, could have been a Ring of Basilius, it could have been a magic stick boots, it could have been a magic stick salve Ring of Basilius or something like that. That's better than what you have right now. The magic wand does not give you bonus value. It's +4 to all stats. That's a great early game item, but the laning stage is not about, it's not as much about being as efficient as possible in stats. It is, but only after the point where you know that you have lane sustain. Because if you don't have lane sustain, you're not collecting last hits, you're not contesting opponents, you're not farming as efficiently. So yes, you're efficient at not dying, but who cares? Because now you're not getting farm. That is the distinction that you have to make. If you're in a contested lane, regen is one of the important things. The other being usually movement speed. But it kind of depends on the matchups. But in this case, you're zoned out of lane. Every time he quills, yes, you get 15 HP. But every other time you take more damage, you're gone. So right now, you're basically effectively zoned. You might as well be playing offlane at this point. You did spawn illusions to try to last hit with these. This was a great choice because this still allows you to get farm even while you're gone. So really nice job by you to grab 3 last hits. That was worth it. Now you buy boots of speed. Still not completely sold on this. Again, this could have been bottle and boots at this point. You could actually have boots and bottle. At least with bottle, then you could have some lane sustain. You could shift over to this to the rune spawn and refill it and get more lane sustain that way. It's good that you went back to heal due to the problem that you're in, but you're not playing this completely correctly. And you're also not microing your illusions correctly. I don't like the fact that you're grouping them up all together necessarily. And it's also not good that you're using mana every time that there's a creep wave. Like, the only time you should be using mana is if it's time to use mana. The only reason I said it in that stupid way is because it's a little bit harder than a one sentence to explain it. But let's talk about it this way. You don't have to Riptide to kill this creep. This one was going to die no matter what because it wasn't taking damage. You can probably last hit this creep because you have a freaking Quelling Blade and a Poor Man's Shield. You have 60 damage and a Quelling. That's a really good shot. You're doing 40% extra of that, so that's like 6 times 4, 24. You're hitting for 84 damage right now with your Quelling Blade versus creeps, not including armor reduction. So you could easily get the range creep. You could probably last hit this one, and you could probably last hit this one. These guys are way over here. They're standing far away. You do not have to use 90 mana. You used Mirror Image after you TP'd in. That's fine. Totally fine. Free mana. But the fact that you now used Riptide just to guarantee 3 last hits, not good. And, okay, you did get all 3. You're good about that. But that's 90 mana that you're not going to have later. What if you need that 90 mana later to guarantee a kill? And you push the wave now. You push the wave because you AoE'd it, which means that now the creep wave is pushed farther away from your tower, which means that your opponents aren't going to be as scared to dive you now. They can dive you from here, all the way down to here before they have to back. With the creep waves here, they actually can't really dive you very far because the tower range is going to go about here. So this is a much safer place for it to be. You don't want to push the wave like this. If you do, what you need to do is immediately pull. So let's take a look at the timer here and see if that was something capable. Now, if you coordinated with your line, what you could have said is, line, I'm going to push this wave. Walk over to the large camp and do a side pull at 53 seconds. Because then if he does that, then you will push this wave and your next wave will be denied. So watch this here. If line was here right now, boom. He attacks this creep, he pulls it down to the southeast, this creep wave will meet it here, and it'll pull left. And while this camp is over here, this camp will respawn, which means that when this creep wave goes back, it fights 2 camps, which means this whole wave, 100% denied. Whole creep wave denied. These guys are going to get 2 creeps. They're going to be like, yeah, 2 creeps, but then you get a whole creep wave denied. And then when these 2 creeps die, which is probably going to be about here, then this creep wave will push down here, and then the creep wave will reset down here, because these creeps will all be denied over here. And then you get 4 creeps. And then later on you can do that again. Now, then you'd have to play this game where you contest them from being able to do a side pull as well. But at your MMR, you can exploit all this because people don't understand it as well. So you lose opportunities like this. If you are going to push it, you need to pull immediately afterwards. So try to plan ahead. It's kind of the job of the carry and the support now to do pulls. It's not just about the supports like it was in the past. And that's because it's way easier to do a pull, a side pull, and it doesn't take a pull through, which takes a hero to sit around for like 30 seconds. So look for those kind of things that will help you win your lane. If you are against dual lanes that are hard to kill and tanky, the most important thing is regen, and the second most important thing is lane equilibrium and outlast hitting and out farming, because eventually it'll give you an advantage. You're basically playing this whole game on the assumption that you have really high base HP regen because you're Naga Siren, and that's not the right way to play it. So let's speed this up a little bit now. You're pressuring the Kunk a lot, which is pretty good, but he does have 2 tangos. He also has a poor man shield. I actually would have probably hit Bristleback instead there. He does have Bristleback, of course, but you know, he doesn't have very much mana, so that means he won't be able to spam Quill Spray. He doesn't have boots. He's way easier for you to punish than Kunkka would be here. And he also doesn't have tangos, so it means if Kunkka gives Bristle tangos, he won't be able to power through them as fast because they would be shared tangos. Alright, let's go back to watching you. Alright, use the split here. I don't really know why. This was a waste of your mana probably. Like every time that you use it, it kind of zones your opponents away, but look at your position right now. You're completely out of mana. Remember that Riptide I told you not to do earlier? If you hadn't done it, maybe you could kill Bristleback here. He's not super low, but he's a little low. If Lion wasn't bad at this game and had a Hex point, then he would have a second disable. This would be a kill 100%. If you had that 90 mana, and if Lion had Hex, this guy dies. The only way he doesn't is if this guy lands a Torrent. And maybe he kills you. Maybe. It's possible. But this is a nice stun by Lion. So your HP should be higher, your mana should be higher, you're not laning efficiently, and you're not buying the right items, and all of these things really add up. You'd probably go up minimum 300 MMR if you made the correct decisions for early game items. Now Lion's also going to die for another reason, and here again, you had no mana. If you had a Riptide here, well actually you did, you could have wanded and Riptided. You should have done that earlier to scare him and get him away from your Lion. Great stun by Lion. He really, I guess he didn't stay that much longer, but yeah, you've got 5 sticks here. I guess you have 1. Right here, it probably would have been worth it to do it, I think. It's not that much damage. It's -3 armor. I guess he's dead no matter what. Maybe it doesn't matter that much. Probably not that big of a deal. If he stays for a really long time, could definitely get this kill. These guys are just so tanky here. Same problem. If you just had a little bit more mana, honestly, you could have just juked and then swung back and used Riptide and killed that guy. But you're low on mana. All that stuff really matters. Super important. Being efficient about your mana, especially if you're contested, ultra important. You learn this better if you're playing in a 1v1 matchup in mid. But it's still important. I'm guessing you're sending illusions over here to Riptide them. Just to increase your farm rate. It's too bad this guy's fighting you for last hits. You should have gotten that one first, and then the second. You lost 45 gold for that. It's good that you're spreading your farm a little bit, but another good thing that you could do is do a pull here. Pulling through the creep wave would be good. Instead you're kind of just focusing on the creep wave. I knew that you were going to Riptide that, but I think you did it improperly. Basically, if you're Riptiding for 1 last hit, it's not worth it. You should be Riptiding for minimum 2. And ideally 2 and a hero harass. Like right here you already messed up. What you should have done here, if you really planned to Riptide. Got this last hit, that was great. Creeps are hitting this one, which means that you need to hit this one to offset it to keep them the same HP. But instead you hit this one, which meant that it died so early that you felt like you had to Riptide because you wanted to guarantee that I don't know, you could get the last hit as you escaped or something. We hit the wrong one, and then you tried to get this one to catch up, so you already messed that up. And now you use Riptide to last hit, and now you can't use it to do damage to these guys. It's like you're misusing your mana in a pretty significant way, and it's putting you in a bad spot. You shouldn't be losing this lane that bad. If you're just more efficient on your mana, you'd be doing way better than these guys. So it's not like they have very good ability to pressure you. Like, Bristol's a little scary, but they're splitting the farm and the experience 2 ways, which means this should be offset a lot more. Again, Riptiding, I don't think you needed to Riptide there. Again, you waste your mana. Last hit. Last hit. Maybe you would have missed that one. Perhaps. That's the other problem with Riptiding, is then all the creeps and towers do way more damage than you expect because they have minus armor, and that makes it harder to last hit. So you have to be more safe about when you use Riptide. Alright, you've got Arcane Boots now, and you're probably like, yes, I've got Arcanes now. But you still don't have HP regen. You're still punishable. If these guys were at all good at ganking, they would be killing you repeatedly. Like, they could easily do like a smoke gank for example, like smoke Tiny, TP to the bot lane, smoke, and then approach you and kill you. If this guy just gets X marks the spot, for example, he could X you, torrent, and set up Tiny. It'd be really easy. So your build is, you're not getting punished that much, but it's because you're low MMR. So you have to, when I say this, make sure you keep it in mind. Like, this is, the build that you did is not safe in any way. It's really, really quite greedy, actually. Now, another item that you can buy that'll help you with mana. I know you said you didn't like getting Aquila, but keep in mind that Aquila is only 500 gold more than Wand, so you could have bought it over Wand, hypothetically. But another item you can buy is Infused Raindrops. It's quite good this game, actually. I did see a pro player once in a Naga game do it, where they played Naga, they actually skipped Arcane Boots, and they just got Infused Raindrop instead, because it gives you 0.85 mana per second. It costs 225 gold. Arcane Boots costs you 900 upgrade. Yes, you use it as a part of Octarine, but the bigger thing is how fast can you get your Radiance. Arcane Boots is purchased because it accelerates your ability to get Radiance, and then later you can disassemble it into an Octarine, which makes sense. But Infused Raindrop kind of does a similar thing for much less gold. 0.85 mana per second. It's a huge amount. And if you get ganked, it's going to block a nuke. So it'll block Toss, 120 damage of that. It'll block a Lucent Beam. It'll block the initial Torrent damage, I believe, as well. It has some good blocks here. I think an Infused Raindrop would be really, really decent this game, especially when you're being contested. Because if it saves your life like once or twice, it ends up being completely worth it. So now you're holding out for the Radiance, essentially. You again used Riptide at a poor time. That did nothing. It's like you're using Riptide when you're getting scared, when you know that you're missing last hits. You should do that sometimes, but the better thing would just be getting better at last hitting, because you're missing a lot. You've got 37 and 9 minutes. It's alright. This is probably normal for this MMR, but if you compare it to Faceless Void, who's, I guess, technically in a dual lane in the off lane, or a solo, or I think it was a dual lane in the off lane, he's doing better than you, and by a decent amount. You could definitely be higher, even contested like this. If you just had a little bit of regen, and you always use your spells efficiently, which would give you an HP advantage over your opponents, which would allow you to zone them. Like, again, you just keep using Riptide at the wrong time. If you are not getting a last hit for Riptide, you are doing it wrong. Or if you're not trading efficiently with your opponents, you're doing it wrong. Same thing there. You figured that out. You should have pulled it into the creep wave. Looks like you stacked it, which, well, you tried to stack it, you messed it up, but it would have been great to stack that. And that's another thing you can do with Mirror Image. Use Mirror Image to prep, and then you can double stack camps, like stack this camp left and stack this camp left as well or something, and then go clear them later. That would be really good to do. Instead, you're pretty much on a slow farming threshold now where you're being constantly contested. Looks like you're planning to Riptide again, which is whatever, fine. You maybe should have songed a setup for the Lina there to let her get into range. Would have been good to do. It's worth doing. Even if it's a long cooldown. If you have this many people in the lane, it's very important that you actually get something out of it. Because if everybody TPs, then you're just wasting all your time. Alright, looks like you got a Riptide off on that guy. This is going to be really hard to kill now. Due to the boat. Okay, looks like you will die. And now you guys are pushing. Great time to have Aquila. Now everybody's in your lane. This would be a good time for you to spread on farm. Make sure you carry a TP. It's really important to do. Don't think that's stacked probably, but that's not your fault. Yeah, looks like they got a side pull. That's a tiny. Nicely done by them. Let's see if there's anything you could have done to not die to that. Alright, right there. You saw. Let me look again. I'm just going to put it on your guys' vision. Alright, Luna. Bristleback. And then you saw a hero right here, which is the tiny. And there's the Luna. Still the Luna. Still the Luna. You didn't look, and a Kunkka. You didn't look at any of this, by the way. When I was watching your player perspective, I didn't see any of this. You see tiny. There's 3 heroes to your right. You should have swung right now. You should have ran south. Huge mistake. You can't mess up like this, especially if you're being pressured in lane. Like, this was the most obvious. That wasn't even a gank. That was like they showed up to your lane and you happened to walk into them, is basically what happened. Can't happen. Alright, you end up going mid. Using illusions, that's good. Going for a rune. This is a mistake. No reason for you to go for a rune if you don't have a bottle. Wow, there's nothing there. You wasted your time. That's the thing, you know? You shouldn't be there unless you know it's going to work out, or you think there's going to be a rune there. So instead, how long ago did you TP in? This is basically what playing a carry is about, is being efficient. Alright, 1250. Alright, 1252 you TP'd in. Let's see how long it took for you to get a last hit with your hero. 1251, 1251, 1251. Oh, it's not going to be a good one, guys. 1251, boom. 40 seconds, you got one last hit using Mirror Image and Riptide. Not good. What would have been better, probably, send one illusion mid, let him do Riptide ranged click on the range creep. Send the other 3 of you, yourself and 2 illusions to this camp, farm this camp, and then farm this camp, and then head down here and farm all the way. If you didn't go for rune, that would have saved you minimum 10 seconds. You could have been farming here the whole time. One illusion would have been enough to push this wave, which would have given you map vision and one last hit. Farm this, and then you would have been here at the same time. Let me just double check. Yeah, actually I'm not 100% if you would have gotten there in time, but it would have been pretty close. You probably would have gotten here about now or something like that, and you still would have gotten some farm, but you would have also had 2 medium camps, and you would have pushed in the mid lane like you did, but you just wouldn't have used 3 illusions on it. Like, that's why it's important that you don't always put 3 illusions in the same place, because it slows down your farming if they have an AoE hero, and that's what keeps happening. You complained about that in your post as well. You said Kunkka always used his AoE on it. Well, then you just need to make sure that they're not so clumped up that you're constantly getting nuked down with one nuke. That's the important thing, and that's the distinction that you need to change. Still not sitting on full HP, which is really dangerous for obvious reasons, since you can be ganked. Make sure you get all 4 last hits. 3 is not enough. You're basically delaying your farm by 25%. Another example of your things being too grouped in, he ends up getting a last hit, or killing all 3. Camps are respawning. This would have been a good time to go through here, farm this, and then go left and farm. So you messed up that farming pattern a little bit. You also were very late on using your arcane boots. I would really like you to use mirror image on golems, I think, just because you can't AoE them down. And make sure you're a little bit more careful doing these. I guess you only missed like one of those. Alright, and huge mistake here. You walked from here over to here to get the last hit. Choose your Quelling Blade on the tree. You just lost 3 seconds minimum. Let's see how long that took. Alright, 37. You could have been there at 41, 2, 3, 4, 5. You missed 5 seconds of auto-attacking small creeps that you could have just quelling through, killed those, and then walked to the large camp. And then stack the large camp left or right, and then kill the double stack. Instead, you're going to get over there not in time. Maybe you wouldn't have killed it in time to stack it, but minimum this would have been done 4 seconds earlier, and maybe you could have done this, gone to rune or something, then gone to large camp and gone through this way. Tiny again in the lane, but now you're walking to rune, which is now late. If you would have gotten there on time by being efficient, you would have gotten the bounty rune, which meant Tiny wouldn't have had nearly as much mana. So you messed that up too. Creeps pushing out the wave. I like that because Tiny left. Otherwise it's dangerous. This is still kind of dangerous because Tiny very easily could be swinging this way. And now you basically did the small camp by walking the slow way, then you walked all the way up here, then nothing happened, so you walked all the way through your jungle. Like, see how inefficient that was? If let's assume if Tiny didn't exist in this game, yes, you would have gotten that bounty rune. Yes, you would have pushed out the lane more with your illusions. But if you were just more efficient with your farming patterns, you would have gotten an extra camp or two in this time period that I've been criticizing you, where you basically have been walking around and like aimlessly. You have to be efficient with your movement. Every second of movement when you're playing a carry is really important. That's why it's better to plan out your movements a little bit. Say like, oh, look at my time. I'm going to be able to kill this camp. I'm going to run over to this other one. I'm going to farm half of it, and then it's time to stack, so I'll stack it. And then I'll finish the rest of it, which will now be 1.5 camps. And then I'm going to look on the map and say, okay, now that that's respawned, let's say this was the camp you stacked. Now it's going to be efficient if I cut through this tree and farm here, here, here. And then after farming those, I can go mid. And when I'm here, I can spawn illusions and send them mid and then farm the large camp or something. Like, planning that stuff out is really how you accelerate your items. It's really important. It's kind of hard to see in pro games because most people don't pay attention to it. You're just like, wow, that's weird. They just happen to have a stupid amount of items. But it's basically because of the patterns and movement that they do. Like most Naga Sirens, they will have Radiance around 18 to 20 minutes. Obviously, you were contested, so it's not a perfect example by any means of farm, but you should have it. I would also consider going mid here, just because Luna's pressuring. You ended up TPing to the bot lane. This is arguably okay, because of the fact that creep wave, there's probably nobody there, and your jungle is there. But I'm not completely sold on it. It's kind of far away. And looks like you're going lane while they go jungle, which I think is fine. Nope, you got to stop looking at your illusions. I think you're giving yourself the possibility to miss last hits because you're looking at your illusions. Like right here, you almost kill it, and then you move away. Like you actually did get it, but that was like complete luck. That's so dangerous. The neutrals will die. Like if you're gonna use Riptide, use Riptide, but make sure that you're at least last hitting everything. You shouldn't be missing last hits ever. Arcane Boots here. I like that you got double Riptide value, that's fine. Checking for rune, but again, you're a little bit late. You've got Mirror Image. What I would do right now probably is I'd send one Mirror Image here to do a Riptide, get like 1, maybe 2 last hits, while I'd farm with the rest of them on the medium camp. Because if you send all 3, then Tiny will kill them. There you go. So you're kind of late here. And again, you sent all 3. Which means that if Tiny shows up, they actually don't get that much value. I think it'd be okay to send 1, maybe 2 to the neutral, the small camp. That way you get double Riptide value, and you farm this at the same time. You're just not farming efficiently, basically. Like, think of every single one of your Riptide illusions. Every single one of them is a Riptide. I said Riptide illusions. Every one of your Mirror Image illusions, every single one is a Riptide. It doesn't do anything to have 3 illusions in one spot, in one creep wave to Riptide. It doesn't triple Riptide, you know that. It's better if you spread them out, put them on different farming structures. Even if you don't kill a large camp, for example, if you have a Naga Siren illusion there, you're going to at least do damage and lower their armor. And then maybe when you come there in 30 seconds, they're going to be missing 200 HP. That's going to increase your farming speed. This is why Naga Siren has so much potential to gain farm, because your ability to accelerate is not limited on how the hero is. It's limited on your ability to micro the illusions to maximum efficiency and in your farming patterns. All of these things that I'm talking about are the case for all carries. All carries just farm a little bit differently than one another, so it's slightly different. Anti-mage is the easiest. You get a battle free, you go from neutral to neutral to neutral to neutral as fast as you can to gain farm, and sometimes you split push lanes. For Naga, it's a little different. You're playing it approximately correctly, hiding in jungle, pushing lanes with illusions, avoiding fights, not wanting to get ganked, but your item is slow because of the farming patterns that you're doing, and because mostly your laning stage. Your laning stage, I would say, is worse than your farming patterns have been. I've been criticizing your farming patterns a lot, but it's definitely the laning stage that is worse. And again, you're spending so much time at runes like you have a bottle. Like, just get a... I mean, if you play like this, you might as well just buy a bottle, man. Like, I think it's kind of worth it. Maybe not if you... with infused raindrops, I guess, but... it's still probably worth it for you to buy infused raindrops either way. Especially against, like, Luna or something like that, or Tiny. It's pretty worth it, especially if he goes Blink Dagger. He does not, because he built Echo Saber first, which is really dumb, but if he was moving around with a smoke and any other hero, they could easily kill you. So you're kind of just not dying here because your opponents are not good at ganking. So you need to fix these problems. Like the problems I'm pointing out, they're okay at your level, they don't matter that much, but they will as you get better. So just listen and hopefully adjust that kind of stuff if possible. Alright, this is a little iffy for you. You should really Arcanes here. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. Arcanes? Alright, still no Arcanes. Late on the old Arcanes. I would like it if you, at this point, spawned illusions, kept one for right click and maybe damage, send the rest to lane. Definitely use, this is the most mirror image camp ever, just because you do bonus damage. You get 3 illusions that do 40, so it's basically more than doubling your damage. It puts you up to 120% extra damage. So it's 2.2 times extra damage. Not exactly, because your attack speed won't be as big, and your illusions don't get Sacred Relic. But before Relic, yes. Alright, I have no idea what you just did the last 30 seconds, I'm kind of confused. Okay, so you killed the Mud Golems. You didn't use Mirror Image. Lean over here is farming jungle camps. So you can't farm that, but you could have sent illusions over here to farm this large camp. Now these camps are all cleared, so you're basically running across the map to look for last hits. You end up going mid, but that's kind of scary. So you end up going over here instead. If you were a little bit faster there, if you used Mirror Image on the Mud Golems, for example, you would have killed them in time, and then you would have been able to get to the Ancients and then stack the Ancients. I don't know if you're going to kill the Ancients, maybe you're not. But at some point you might be able to kill them. So everything you're doing is just a little bit slow, basically. This is a really slow camp. Not too bad, with a little Riptide. Alright, you're very close to Radiance. Safest thing to do is go through your jungle like you're doing, I think. Definitely important to be a little careful here. I would definitely be more willing to use Mirror Image here. I think you're neglecting it a little bit. Again, you get 2.2 times the physical damage when you use this skill, so you should probably use it as much as possible, because it will increase your farm rate. And again, don't do that. Don't send 4 down one lane where there's a hero. They're going to use their AoE and they're all going to die. It's a complete waste. Spread them out. Send one to a neutral camp, send one mid, and then as soon as the first one goes in and he hits it with his Tidebringer, then you send in the second one that was sitting right behind, and then you Riptide. You can do lots of little tricks like that to play around your opponents. Alright, Radiance is up. It is 22 minutes. You're definitely late, but it's not terrible. You're like, what? You could have gotten it, like, pretty significantly faster, actually. Probably minimum, like, 5 minutes faster, I would imagine. Looks like you're trying to maximize farm. Again, you don't really need all of your illusions to be on the same creep wave now that you have Radiance. Most of your damage now comes from red. For 10 seconds of a creep or of an illusion standing there, you're doing 500 magic damage, which kills almost entirely a creep wave. The right clicks help, the Riptide helps, but you don't really need it anymore, so now it's time to spread out. So, it's probably fine that you still Mirror Imaged here, just because you want to push that lane ASAP, but that's better. Basically what you're doing right now, this was better, but it was a little bit late is the problem. Definitely Riptide this. Okay, it looks like you did, so you're good there. Now the problem is that they're just kind of taking your towers, but luckily it's delayed enough that you're in a position where you can still make things work. Definitely go fight here. I think this is a good place to fight. Maybe not, though. Perhaps they are all there. Spread your illusions out. Don't group them. This is a huge mistake. You're doing the same thing that you're doing in the laning stage. Make every illusion a pain in the ass to kill. Make them use a spell on every single one individually, because then they're going to run out of spells. If he has to Lucent Beam each one, AA can't kill 3 illusions, which he can't, then you're good. But if Tiny just uses a toss here, they all just die. It's a huge mistake to have them so good. Watch, one toss. You got a little lucky because he tossed on the Lion, but these need to be hard to kill. And then those got double Avalanche, so they got cleared out a little bit faster than they would have. Like, if you microed that correctly, you might have been able to kill Bristle. Maybe Lion stays alive. There's a lot of little things that you could have done there to increase your efficiency. But you got to spread your illusions out. If you run them in as a group, it's not the time to do that. The only time you do that is when you have a lot of illusion items and their right click actually, or agility items, and their right click actually matters. But right now it doesn't matter. Your right click does not matter. This is a pretty big mistake to grab the invis. You should have waited, mirror image, then grab the invis. Spread the mirror out, 1 mid, 1 into jungle, 1 top, boom, spread out farm. You stole the invis, it did nothing. Same thing. Spread those out a little bit faster. I don't know how you spread them out, but what you should do is hotkey all of your illusions to 1 hotkey. For me, I do 2. So my hero's on 1, my illusions are on 2. So I press the illusion key, I press 2. So for example, if I want to go jungle, mid, and we'll say bot lane, what I'll do is I'll do mirror image, I'll press 2, I'll A click the ground here, which means that they'll all attack here. And then while they're selected on here, you hold shift, you click on 1, which removes it from your selection, and then you click in the jungle, which would move 2 of your illusions, but not 3, into the jungle, and then you hold shift and you press, and you left click again on the other blue one, and then you right click that bottom. So basically you give a attack move command on all 3 to the middle, then you remove 1 and put the 2 somewhere else, but then you instantly remove one of those 2 and you put it somewhere else. So basically The first one that you remove from queue only gets the attack, move, command. The second one does an attack and then a move, and the third one does an attack, move, a move, but then another move that you cancel right away. And that's the fastest way to do it. Instead of clicking on one, moving it, clicking on another, moving it. Do the shift queue thing, it's way faster. That's what you gotta do. Way more rapid. Again, same thing, increases your farm rate, gives you more gold. All of these things are super important towards making you efficient. And now you're going for the Boots of Travel, which is totally standard. I just feel like you're not getting enough gold out of your mirror image. As soon as you get it, it should be stuff like spread your mirrors, put one on every neutral camp and get the neutral camp. But you're not really doing that. Let's see how you did this one. You sent. Okay, this is good. You spread them out. This is what I want to see. But it probably should have been like this from the start. Okay, he has. Ooh. Okay. We'll see if this works. I feel like it's not going to last long enough. Yeah, it doesn't quite last long. Oh, it's going to work actually. Alright, that was alright. It was a bit iffy. I would spread these out for farm. And this isn't gonna work at all, there's no way. Looks like you might get hit by this. Okay. You got barely hit, but it's not gonna kill you. Oh wow, that killed him. Alright, BOTs are now up. I would probably farm this large camp on the way home since you have good vision of them. Okay, perfect. Good. I'm glad you did that. Again, it's basically like the principle that we were explaining before. You want to be efficient with your movements. So the reason I wanted you to do it, which is probably the reason you did it, I'm sure, is because it was right there. You already walked all the way past it. You might as well get the farm on the way. Alright, perfect. Looks like you are doing the shift thing to me, based on your mouse clicks. This pressure is... Okay, that guy's really bad. That was probably one of the most bad things I've seen in a long time. You are more than fine. In fact, you can maybe kill this guy. Oh, you're dead. So, yeah, I kind of saw that happen. You know, I want to rewatch that. I want to see if you could have maybe made that work. I think part of your problem is that you ran away from the creeps, actually. Because at this point, once he stops getting vision of the creeps, then you're kind of in trouble. You know, if you still had your mirror, if you didn't use mirror image over here, I think you would have been okay. I think you played this about right. The mistake was that I didn't know that he had a Manta Style. That basically means that he's going to out DPS you easily. That's where things got a little iffy. And you usually don't want to use Ensnare to start the fight, you want to use Ensnare to guarantee the fight is killed. So next time what you should do is, if you want to approach him and you want to mess with him a little bit, you would walk up to him, feel it out a little bit, maybe riptide him, and then if he's really low and he's about to escape, that's when you ensnare him. But if you lead with ensnare, you say, I'm about to fight you, and then he's able to react accordingly. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. You don't want to ensnare somebody, you don't want to use the stun usually until it's too late. You use it when it's too late. You don't start the fight with your stun, usually, unless you have a way to guarantee the kill later. In this case, since your skill literally only disables movement, it absolutely was a mistake here. I think you might have messed up slightly with your pathing as well. If we look at this a little bit slower, I think if you ran straight south, you would have been okay. But when you ran this way, it kind of looks like maybe. It was probably close either way. You were honestly very close to dead. If you didn't song, he was going to Lucent Beam you, I'm sure. So, oh, he actually didn't have mana, so you definitely should have clicked on his hero and just realized that he's actually equally as fast as you. He actually did not have Lucent Beam mana. Another thing that you would have gained by clicking on his hero. That's why you gotta click on heroes, man. You could have seen that you were gonna live. Probably gonna live. Minimum, you run long enough that you can press mirror image, maybe, and then you're good. Did you mess up your TP? Oh, you started on a creep inside the tower. That was a pretty big mistake. Because now you're missing all this farm. Alright, spread the illusions. Definitely spread the illusions. Looks like you sent them all to the same place. It looks... Yeah, I guess you did it. Finishing off the... Yeah, okay. I like that you're pushing. This is a little dangerous. You have to be kind of careful here. I would leave this. I don't think I would want to have my main hero here. I guess you have Song of the Siren, so it's not super dangerous, but... Is he gonna boat you? No, he actually is. Actually missed. It's kind of funny. You're gonna have to Song now. Oh, that was a huge mistake. You're dead now, I think. Not quite sure why you turned off the Radiance. Either way, you're fine. That was a little dangerous. Now you're getting close to Octarine. You gotta communicate with your mid. Like, if somebody else has a bottle, you can't just take runes like that. That's not cool. That, like, really is... If you're playing mid, that's the most obnoxious thing. Like, you're not even using the haste, you know? Like, you used it to walk to a side shop to buy a little bit more rapidly. I think that's a mistake. Alright, so one thing that you haven't been doing very well is you're not really pushing the lanes. And one really dirty thing that you can do, for example, is if you have your ulti up, for example, you can spend some time pushing all lanes. Like, for example, they still have tier 1s, which is kind of amazing. But what you can do, for example, move into the jungle. If you're full mana, full HP, and you felt pretty survivable and kind of hard to kill, what you should do is you should farm through the jungle. And then when these camps are about to spawn at the 1 minute or 30-second marks, what you do is you use mirror image right here. And you send one illusion here, and you send one illusion here, and ideally you get a third one down here. So these creeps will spawn, they'll run to here, where they will attack your illusions, but your illusions will do Radiance Burn, and then you use Riptide, and then 3 sets of creep waves are dead. Now doing this kind of limits the farm for your team, which can be a problem in ultra late game scenarios, but the more important thing that it does is it pushes the lanes. All 3 lanes will then be cut by 1 wave, which means that all of your lanes will push. They'll pressure towers, etc. Your team should be able to farm the rest of your jungle when you do this, and ideally start taking some towers. If you're against this many cores, it's a little dangerous to do this because their heroes will then farm the 3 creep waves you push in. But if you guys are winning, it's a really good thing to do. That can basically block out the map and prevent your opponents from being able to do anything. This whole game has basically been a line down the middle, and it really shouldn't be if you're playing Naga Siren. So I think you needed to do that a little bit more. You're basically spawning illusions and pushing them down lanes, but what's better actually is if you let your illusions meet the creep wave where your opponents don't expect them to be. Because your opponents are probably going to be somewhere close to creep waves, either farming these neutral camps or preparing to push. If the creep wave spawns here and your illusion shows up, they're not going to TP to deal with that one illusion. If they do, it's a waste, because maximum your illusion dies, the creep wave doesn't die. What did that cost you? Probably not much, just the usage of one of your illusions. So if you just cut creep waves like that, it's very, very difficult to react to them in time for your opponents if they don't have boots of travel on Tinker or something like that. You push in all the waves, you get insanely fast farm, and this pushes you into your 6th item faster and faster. Like, you're farming equally to a Luna. That should never, ever, ever happen, especially when these are his items. He's got Helm of the Dominator Manta. It's not anything special. It doesn't farm super fast. You are farming quite slow, actually, for a Naga Siren, and that is the main thing that you need to fix. Like, if you like playing Naga, that's great, but you have to farm faster. Otherwise, you should be playing a different hero, probably. I would consider pressuring the tower here, and you should have gone to the right as soon as you killed that centaur. I think we're about at the length of worth watching this video. I know it's an hour game. You said there was some crazy stuff late game, but for the purpose of coaching, I don't think it's really useful to talk about really late game stuff, because in all reality, if you were a perfect player, you would have probably close to 6. You probably have like 4 items finished right now. You probably have like Manta Octarine minimum, possibly more, maybe an extra item as well. You'd probably have close to 5 items in this game if you were playing Naga Siren perfectly, even in the laning setup that you're against. So, like, yes, in the late game scenarios, you had some close fights where you made some decision problems, but the most important thing to fix in everybody's Dota game is the first 10 to 20 minutes. In carry games, it's more important to look longer, and it was useful this game because I was talking about farming patterns, getting full efficiency from illusions and stuff, but in an average game, the 10-minute mark is by far the worst for almost all players, including myself. Less efficiency, less last hits gotten, missed pulls, missed opportunities, slow roaming rotations, just not doing as much as you could. And that's the most important thing, because you could have a whole item over your opponents, and then every fight from here on out would be easy because you're going to have more items. Obviously, there's things to be said about increasing your ability to make the right choices during team fights, but most of that comes from just game sense by playing a lot of games. Whereas farming efficiently, knowing what to do when, is more of a looking at a situation and instantly knowing what to do. And that's more of a learning process, and sometimes a gaming play process. But hopefully for you, we can fix all of these like last hitting problems, stuff like that. So hope everybody enjoyed. Hope you guys learned a little bit more about carry, and hopefully Naga Siren as well. Same principles apply to a lot of carries. It's all about farming patterns, being maximum efficient. You can apply a lot of these principles when playing Terrorblade. I'll try to make a Terrorblade game soon, since I know he's a very popular carry in the meta right now, and I think he's quite highly voted on the website. So thanks everyone for watching. Hope you guys have a good July 4th if you are American. If not, for the rest of you guys, hope you have a good July 4th. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.